Hello, children. Welcome to the class once again. We are going to start new lesson number 3 in supplementary, that is Iswaran, the storyteller. Let us begin the lesson. One night, Mahendra woke up from his sleep and saw a dark, cloudy form. He broke out into a cold sweat. Was it a ghost? With this question, let us read this story and find out the answer. The story was narrated to Ganesh by a young man, Mahendra by name. He was a junior supervisor in a firm which offered on hire supervisors at various types of construction sites, factories, bridges, dams, and so on. Mahendra's job was to keep an eye on the activities at the work site. He had to keep moving from place to place every now and then as ordered by his head office. From a coal mining area to a railway bridge construction site, from there after a few months to a chemical plant which was coming up somewhere. It is written that the story was narrated to a person, Ganesh, by Mahendra. He was a supervisor and he has to supervise the construction sites, either be factories, bridges, dams, and so on. So he has to move on to places where the construction takes place. So that's what is work, that is supervising the construction site. He was a bachelor, his needs were simple, and he was able to adjust himself to all kinds of odd conditions, whether it was an ill equipped circuit house or a makeshift canvas tent in the middle of a stone quarry. But one asset he had was his cook, Iswaran. The cook was quite attached to Mahendra and followed him uncomplainingly wherever he was posted. He cooked for Mahendra, washed his clothes, and chatted away with his master at night. He could weave out endless stories and anecdotes on varied subjects. Mahendra was a bachelor and he had the quality to adjust to all kinds of conditions wherever he had to stay. And one asset he had was his cook, and that is his name is Iswaran. So Iswaran cooked for his master Mahendra and washed his clothes and chatted with him at night, and he used to say different type of stories, anecdotes, stories of different subjects. Iswaran also had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients seemingly out of nowhere in the middle of desolate landscape with no shops visible for miles around. He would miraculously conjure up the most delicious dishes made with the fresh vegetables within an hour of arriving at the zinc sheet shelter at the new workplace. So Iswaran had the amazing capacity to produce vegetables for himself, because in certain places there was no markets in those areas. He would produce vegetables for them in their area nearby his tents. Mahendra would be up early in the morning and leave for work after breakfast, carrying some prepared food with him. Meanwhile, Iswaran would tidy up the shed, wash the clothes, and have a leisurely bath, pouring several buckets of water over his head, muttering a prayer all the while. It would be lunchtime by then. After eating, he would read for a while before dozing off. The book was usually some popular Tamil thriller running of hundreds of pages. Its imaginative descriptions a narrative flourishes would hold Iswaran in thrall. So, this was the regular activity of Iswaran. That after Mahendra goes to work, he would do all the house chores and take bath. After which, he used to read imaginative descriptive stories, and that is a thrilling stories of Tamil. His own descriptions were greatly influenced by the Tamil authors that he read. When he was narrating even the smallest of incidents, he would try to work in suspense and a surprise ending into a account. For example, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted tree on the highway, he would say, with eyebrows suitably arched and hands held out in a dramatic gesture, the road was deserted and I was all alone. Suddenly, I spotted something that looked like an enormous bushy beast lying sprawled across the road. I was half inclined to turn and go back, but as I came closer, I saw that it was a fallen tree with its dry branches spread out. Mahendra would stretch himself back in his canvas chair and listen to Iswaran's tales uncritically. Iswaran had the quality to narrate the story that he read with more expressions, with his own descriptions that created the listener more interest. The place I come from is famous for timber, Iswaran would begin. There is a richly wooded forest all around. The logs are hauled on to the lorries by elephants. They are huge, well fed beasts. When they turn wild, even the most experienced Mahod is not able to control them. After this prologue, Iswaran would launch into an elaborate anecdote involving an elephant. Iswaran would narrate the story with much more exaggeration. When he say about his place that there were very big timbers are there, and they would be loaded by the elephants, and the elephants were very huge, and so on. He would add extra descriptions of his own. One day, the tusker escaped from the timber yard and began to roam about, stamping on bushes, tearing up wild creepers, and breaking branches at will. You know, sir, how an elephant behaves when it goes mad. Iswaran would get so caught up in the excitement of his own story that he would get up from the floor and jump about, stamping his feet in emulation of the mad elephant. So, while he explains about the elephant, he not only says in his words but also he acts it out. So, that creates one type of excitement to the listener. The elephant reached to the outskirts of our town, breaking the fences down like matchsticks. He would continue. It came into the main road and smashed all the stalls selling fruits, mud pots, and clothes. People ran helter skelter in panic. The elephant now entered a school ground where children were playing, breaking through the brick wall. All the boys ran into the classrooms and shut the doors tight. The beast grunted and wandered about, pulling out the football goalpost, tearing down the volleyball net, kicking and flattening the drum kept for water, and uprooting the shrubs. Meanwhile, all the teachers had climbed up to the terrace of the school building. From there, they helplessly watched the depredations of the elephant. There was not a soul below on the ground. The streets were empty, as if the inhabitants of the entire town had suddenly disappeared. So now it is describing about the elephant and its activities after becoming wild. That the elephant entered into the town and the road and all were running about here and there. They enter into the school playground and smashing the goalpost and tearing the volleyball court and so on. So he's adding more excitement, and say the teachers and the students went up to the terrace and watching from there helplessly. I was studying in the junior class at the time and was watching the whole drama from the rooftop. I don't know what came over me suddenly. I grabbed a cane from the hands of one of the teachers and ran down the stairs into the open. The elephant grunted and menacingly swung a branch of a tree which it held in its trunk. I stamped its feet, kicking up a lot of mud and dust. It looked frightening, but I moved slowly towards it, stick in hand. People were watching the scene, hypnotized from nearby housetops. The elephant looked at me red-eyed, ready to rush towards me. It lifted its trunk and trumpeted loudly. At that moment, I moved forward and, mustering all my force, whacked its shrill toenail on the quick. The beast looked stunned for a moment. Then it shivered from head to foot and collapsed. So, he is narrating that when the elephant came to the ground, becoming wild, he was studying in the third standard, and all were stunned standing on the housetops terrace, and this boy took a stick and came down to the beast, that is the elephant, and so terrifying elephant was. But then, without any fear, the boy took the stick and went near the elephant, and looking at this boy, the beast stunned for a moment, and it shivered from head to foot and collapsed. Then it fell down looking at this boy. At this point, Iswaran would leave the story unfinished and get up mumbling, I will be back after lighting the gas and warming up the dinner. So, as he was narrating the story, adding more and more enthusiasm, and suddenly he will stop the story unfinished and saying, I have some more work to be done and I will continue afterwards. Like that, he will leave the story unfinished. When he returned, Iswaran would not pick up the thread of the story right away. Mahendra would have to remind him that the conclusion was bending. Well, a veterinary doctor was summoned to revive the animal. Iswaran would shrug casually. 2 days later, it was led away by its maho to the jungle. Then, when it comes back, and the listener would remind him that the story was unfinished. Then this Iswaran would say, afterward the veterinary doctor was called and examined, and the elephant was left in the jungle, he will say. And with that, the story will finish. Well, how did you manage to do it, Iswaran? How did you bring down the beast? Then Mahendra, after listening to the story of Iswaran, and asked how he did that, so how he brought down the beast to the ground, like that he will question. Then Iswaran started to answer. It has something to do with the Japanese art, I think, sir, karate or jujitsu it is called. I had read about it somewhere. It temporarily paralyzes the nervous system, you see. So, like that, the storyteller Iswaran would say that he had used some karate skill and so on, which makes the beast paralyzed for some time. Not a day passed without Iswaran recounting some story packed with adventure, horror, and suspense, whether the story was credible or not. Mahendra enjoyed listening to it because of the inimitable way in which it was told. Iswaran seemed to more than make up for the absence of a TV in Mahendra's living quarters. So Mahendra had no choice just to listen to Iswaran's story, whatever he might have cooked more something or maybe true, I don't know. But then he had no other choice just to listen to what Iswaran says because there was no TV to look into. One morning, when Mahendra was having breakfast, Iswaran asked, "Can I make something special for dinner tonight, sir? After all, today is an auspicious day. According to the tradition, we prepare various delicacies to feed the spirits of our ancestors today, sir." So, like that, he will start to say another type of story. That night, Mahendra enjoyed the more delicious dinner and complimented Iswaran on his culinary skills. He seemed very pleased but unexpectedly launched into the most garish account involving the supernatural. So that day is asked rather he said to prepare a special dinner for him because that was the day that they will make special dishes for the spirits to give. And meanwhile, he would start another story which involved supernatural. You know, sir, this entire factory area we are occupying was once a burial ground. He started. Mahendra was jerked out of the pleasant revive he had drifted into after a satisfying meal. I know on the first day itself, when I saw a human skull lying on the path. Even now, I came across a number of skulls, bones, Iswaran continued. So now Iswaran started to saying a terrifying story about the spirits, about ghosts on the place where they are doing the work. And listening to this one, Mahendra would jerk off with fear. He went on to narrate how he sometimes saw ghosts at night. I am not easily frightened by these things, sir. I am a brave fellow. But one horrible ghost of a woman which appears off and on at midnight during the full moon. It is an ugly creature with matted hair and a shriveled face like a skeleton holding a fetus on its arms. Now, Iswaran would describe about the ghost that he had seen some ghost of a woman having a patted hair and holding some skeleton and fetus on his arms, which comes on the full moon day. Like that, he would add extra descriptions for this story. Mahendra shivered at the description and interpreted rather sharply. You see, crazy Iswaran, there are no such things or ghosts or spirits. It is all the figment of your imagination. Get your digestive system examined and maybe your head as well. You are talking nonsense. Just to console himself, Mahendra will say that there is no such type of creatures, ghosts or spirit. Just examine yourself and don't cook up a lot of things like that, Mahendra would say. He left the room and retired for the night, expecting Iswaran to suck for a couple of days. But the next morning, he was surprised to find the cook as cheerful and talkative as ever. From that day on, Mahendra, for all his brave talk, went to bed with a certain unease. Every night he peered into the darkness outside through the window next to his bed, trying to make sure that there was no movement of dark shapes in the vicinity. But he could only see a sea of darkness with the twinkling lights of the factory miles away. So, after listening to the story of ghosts and spirits from Iswaran, Mahendra would check every night before going to bed through his window outside whether there was any unusual things or seen, but then he would see only darkness and the twinkling light of the stars. He had always liked to admire the milk white landscape on full moon nights, But after hearing Iswaran's story of the female ghost, he avoided looking out of his window together when moon was full. So Mahendra had the likeness to see the full moon night, which was very beautiful to look. That is the like milk white landscape. But then after listening to the story of Iswaran about the female ghost, he avoided seeing that full moon night. One day, Mahendra was woken up from his sleep by a low moan close to his window. At first, he put it down to a cat prowling around for mice, but the sound was too guttural for the cat. He resisted the curiosity to look out lest he should behold a sight which would stop his heart. But the wailing became louder and less feline. He could not resist the temptation anymore. Lowering himself to the level of the windowsill, he looked out at the white sheet of moonlight outside. There, not too far away, was a dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. Mahendra broke into a cold sweat and fell back on the pillow, panting. As he gradually recovered from the ghastly experience, he began to reason with himself and finally concluded that it must have been some sort of auto-suggestion, some trick that his subconscious had played on him. So one night Mahendra woke up from his sleep and some noise he heard from the window, and he was terrified and consoled himself that it would have been some cat and so on. But then still the noise resisted, and he wanted to examine what was that. So he saw through the window, and some shadow like thing was there, and that created more fear on Mahendra. But then saying to himself that would have been something lying there, he went to bed, and saying that some unconscious things tricking him. Consoling himself, he went to bed peacefully. By the time he had got up in the morning, he had a bath, come out to have his breakfast. The horror of the previous night had faded from his memory. Iswaran greeted him at the door with his lunch packet and his bag. Just as Mahendra was stepping out, Iswaran grinned and said, "Sir, remember the other day when I was telling you about the female ghost with a fetus in his arms? He was so angry with me for imagining things. Well, you saw her yourself last night. I came running, hearing the sound of moaning, and was coming from your room." So the next day, Iswaran was ready with Mahendra's lunch bag and so on. Still, he was saying that, remembering that last night what had happened with him, with Mahendra, that Iswaran heard some noise. He came out to see what was that. A chill went down Mahendra's spine. He did not wait for Iswaran to complete his sentence. He hurried away to his office and handed in his papers, resolving to leave the haunted place the very next day. So before Mahendra, rather, Iswaran could say the full story about the previous night, Iswaran hurried to the office, submitted his papers, and he wanted to change that place because that terror thing held in his mind. That what Iswaran said that it was a haunted place, so that thing was caught up in his mind. So Iswaran wanted to, rather Mahendra wanted to change that place. So went to his office and gave a notice to change his place. So that's about the story of R.K. Lakshman. Okay, children, with this we have come to the end of the story. Here you have a glossary and question answers are there. Just write them and learn them also. Thank you.